Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours. Russian and Ukrainian advance in 12 months. Vugledar has fallen. Mass execution of prisoners of war. Drone attack stats. Airbombs reached Zaporizhia. Enemies of the state. Whitewashing everywhere. As they say, wake me up when September ends. September is over. What will the map show us? Analyst Roman Shrike published a visual picture of the changes in the active front line over the past year from the 1st of October 2023 to the 1st of October 2024. In red you see the places where the Russians have advanced, and in blue where the Ukrainian army has advanced. A year ago it would have been very strange to assume that this blue section in the Kursk region outside our border would appear. While I was looking at this picture, I realized how important it is to remind myself that you should look close and then look from afar at almost any situation. Locally, in a village in the Donbass, there may be real hell and shelling 24/7, and at the same time, someone can just live peacefully in the Transcarpathia near the border with Hungary, thousands of kilometers away. In Kyiv, they can shoot down 50 missiles and drones at night, and someone in the Carpathian Mountains will say that they have not heard anything about the shelling at all. Everything is very relative. Today, about 20% of my country is occupied, of which about half has been destroyed to the state of ash, like Bakhmut and Avdiivka. Vugledar was a small town in Donbass with a population of 14,000 people. In this picture from Lipkos, you can see its size. This small town of 5 streets held a heroic defense for 25 months. Yesterday, there were reports that the Russians captured Vugledar. Also, in fact, there is nothing left of the city. They are sticking to their scorched earth tactics, so that we simply have nothing to hold on to. This is done with the expectation that when they capture the territory, they will be able to rebuild it in the future, or pretend to rebuild it as they are doing with Mariupol now. The difference is that Mariupol was a city of 450,000 people with factories and major seaport before the war. About 100 kilometers from Vugledar, in the direction of Pokrovsk, the Russians carried out an execution of 16 captured Ukrainian soldiers at once. This is far from the first case of execution on camera. You probably remember Alexander Matseyevsky, an unarmed soldier with a cigarette who was shot by the Russians after he said "Glory to Ukraine." There were cases of beheading on camera. Recently, they demonstratively hacked a prisoner with tied hands to death with a sword, and other cases. All this is wild violence and not even inherent in animals, because predators do not torture their victims for pleasure. I'm not saying terrible and primitive things so that they are remembered, and to remind that war crimes have no statute of limitations. This is not for the Russians, they do not think about it. This is for everyone else, for us to remember and for you to know what we are fighting against. Continuing with the results of September, I want to show you this picture. In the previous video, I talked about the statistics of the production of Shahed drones in Russia. These are the statistics of attacks on Ukraine by these drones. In just 30 days, the Russians launched 1,339 drones at us, of which we shot down 1,107, which is 82% of the shootdowns, and this is a very high result. On average, they launched 44 drones every day, and as you can see here, 30 cells with statistics, there was not a single day without drone attacks. It also says that some more drones were landed by electronic warfare. It works like this. When a Shahed flies to a target in Ukraine and gets into a range of electronic interference, it loses navigation and begins to circle until it flies to where it can find a connection, or until it runs out of fuel. Then it falls or lands itself unharmed. I would also like to add that only drones are shown here, and different types of missiles and aerial bombs are not indicated. I cannot find exact statistics for them yet. In any case, this is a lot. Yesterday the whole world was watching a massive attack on Israel. 180 missiles at once is a lot. If you compare, then roughly speaking this is what flies at us in 3 days constantly for 2.5 years, without days off. A recent example of an attack: a Russian aerial bomb hit the top floor of a residential building in Zaporizhia. 1 person was killed at home, 7 people were injured, and about 20 civilian cars were damaged. Zaporizhia now suffers from aerial bombs because the Russians have modified them and launched them from a greater distance, outside the reach of our air defense systems. This again takes us back to the fact that we cannot reach their bombers because we're not allowed to fire Western weapons at Russian airfields. The only solution I see is to create our own long-range weapons so that we do not have to depend on someone else's permission. The country must decide for itself how to defend itself and not wait until it's allowed to strike back. We are learning this lesson the hard way. Zelensky announced that the first Ukrainian ballistic missile is in the works. There are no details, and there is hope that we will find the solution, as we found the solution against a huge army using consumer drones, FPV drones, sea drones, long-range drones against Russian oil refineries, and military bases and other technological solutions. I got my hands on an interesting document. This is an official list from the government of the Russian Federation. It was published on September 17, and it is literally called the List of Foreign States and Territories Implementing Policies that Impose Destructive Neoliberal Ideological Attitudes that Contradict Traditional Russian Spiritual and Moral Values. It's funny, and I have some questions. Firstly, what are traditional values? It's hard to understand, and Russians can't explain. They don't have any document that would list, say, 50 things that can be considered traditional values of Russia. What do we even know about their values? They have officially decriminalized domestic violence. A year before the war, they passed a law, and now a husband can beat his wife, and the maximum he will pay is fine if she stays alive. Can this be considered a traditional value of Russians? What else? Drinking vodka, stealing, living in a swamp? Oh yeah, religion. Lots of religion. Orthodox faith, okay, what does it promote to you? I don't want to dig deep, but let's take a simple commandment: do not kill. In this photo, Russian priests are blessing a missile called Satan. Yeah, it was that one that exploded in the silo during a test week ago. Christians are blessing the Satan missile with holy water. Just read it out loud. Honestly, they live in a world of crooked mirrors. Let's go back to the list. This is the original text. I'll just translate it. Put a tick if you are on the list. Australia, Austria, Albania, Andorra, Bahamas, what are you here for? Belgium, Bulgaria, Great Britain, including the British Crown dependencies and the British overseas territories. My respects, gentlemen. Germany, Greece, Denmark, Ireland, Iceland, Spain, Italy, Canada, Cyprus, Latvia, Lithuania, Liechtenstein, even you got it, Luxembourg, Malta, Micronesia, oh my god, Micronesia. Seriously, Russians don't like it when someone's country is too small and too far away to take over. Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Republic of Korea, that's the normal one of the Koreas, Romania, San Marino, North Macedonia, Singapore, USA, Taiwan, Ukraine, suddenly, Finland, France, Croatia, Montenegro, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Sweden, Estonia, Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are on the list, my respects. It means you are on the right side of history and doing something right. As you can see, the majority are world leaders who have a high standard of living and development. By the way, this doesn't mean that Russians do not have assets, businesses, or real estate in all these enemy countries. Oh no, they are happy to move to Germany, live there and glorify Putin, but for some reason they do not really want to return to Mother Russia. Georgia is not on the list. Although the Georgian people support us very much, but as you know, a pro-Russian party is now ruling there, which is trying to break the people and make slaves like they did with Abkhazia. Hungary is not on the list, which also suffered from Russian occupation, but Orban plays along with Putin too well. Honestly, I'm happy with the list. I love all these countries, I've been to some of them, and I will gladly visit others after the war, and of course we are waiting for all these wonderful people to give us a visit when the war in Ukraine ends. As they say, if Russians speak badly of you, I'm sure that you are wonderful people. Thank you all for being on the same list with us, and I invite other countries to join the club. I have been rollerblading for many years and I have a community of skaters. We went to Moscow for competitions. Russians came to us in Ukraine. In particular, every summer they came to me in Mariupol and we went to a sports festival in Crimea. In general, we spent a lot of time together. We had no problems or conflicts. In 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, the rural community did not react in any way, but began to go to Crimea with tours already as if it was their own land. At that time, this was a controversial issue and we avoided it. It felt like something that was being decided for us. With the beginning of a full-scale invasion in 2022, when missiles were already flying all over Ukraine, literally a few people from the rural community, only a few of my close friends back then, wrote something to me and 99% just pretended that nothing was happening. At the same time, in 2022, the Italian roller skate manufacturer Whitewashes released a magazine with a rider from Russia on the cover and a stylized version of his surname Savozin as Savozin, replacing the letter S with Z moreover. In the photo, he is dressed in a camouflage Russian jumpsuit that their soldiers wear in winter. Of course, we were all angry and wrote them, but Whitewashes completely ignored their indignation. Now they continue to promote this guy who positions himself as a clown on roller skates. Almost the entire Instagram profile and YouTube channel of the Whitewashes brand are filled with the videos of him skating in their roller skates dressed in traditional Russian folk clothes as a joke. And in the comments, people write how entertaining it is. You can just say that I'm now picking on a 20-year-old guy who just skates and has fun. Some people from my Ukrainian roller community are at the front line fighting his army that occupied us. They can't rollerblade at the moment. And how is this different from the whitewashing of Russian soldiers shown in the propaganda film Russians at War by former Russia Today employee Trofimova? These questions are especially acute now because they essentially divert attention from the crimes that Russians commit without days off. Hey, look, this funny Russian with a balalaika is falling on roller skates. Ha, that's hilarious. And no one thinks that about the fact that he sells roller skates with his name, and I know that Russia pays him about 20 euros for each model with his name on it, and he pays taxes on them in Russia. His taxes in Russia are spent on military salaries and bullets. This is how it works. That's why there are no Russians or Belarusians at the Olympics. That's why it's important not to pretend that let Russian guy ride, but to show that his country is killing people, and he can't just ride and earn money for his army in green camel pants. As long as the world tolerates Russian crimes, this war continues. I have some good news. Yesterday I finally got my Google ad account activated and I started getting angry messages on YouTube finally. It took 96 days and 57 emails to the support service for this to happen, which didn't really want to deal with the issue. Roughly speaking, for 2 months they just wrote to me, send your passport, and then we spoke on the phone with a woman from India who spent 10 minutes explaining to me that I needed to send them my passport, which they wouldn't accept, because I was registered in Mariupol, which is occupied by the Russians. It seems like things are finally moving. I paid for advertising this channel, and judging by everything, there will be soon more angry comments and views. And hey, there are already 300 of you on the channel, which means I was able to set everything up so that people are interested in watching these videos. I'm very glad that you come. In the meantime, summer is over in Ukraine and we are already dressing warmly and waiting for blackouts. This is not very good news. Soon the Russians will start to terrorize our energy sector again and it will be dark and cold. I would of course prefer to go to some warm country from the list for the winter, but now I have to be here and help my country. I'm trying to set myself up like this because I can change the situation and I need to move to the stage of acceptance already. I suppose that I will continue to shoot videos for this channel and photograph important events during the winter. Apparently, the Russians will actively push at the front until the end of this month as much as they can, and then the weather will slow them down a little bit. Let's hope that we will hold out without any major losses. For now, this is all the news for today. Thanks to everyone who watches my videos. If you want to support me, then all the links are below. This was my update on the Russian-Ukrainian war for day 952. Take care and I hope to see you tomorrow.